Brexit crisis.
Crisis. Chaos.
Disaster.
Crisis. Crisis.
Complete cluster shambles.
The UK is in a Brexit crisis, apparently. Well, that's if you believe the media and some politicians.
I've been wondering what that special place in hell looks like.
We asked 3 experts if it's actually true.
It could be a crisis in the making.
The most challenging and sustained crisis that Britain has faced in the modern era.
Brexit could become a dangerous crisis, but it isn't yet.
Take the constitutional crisis. Essentially, a political deadlock where a government can't solve a problem.
Order!
How
close are we to that?
There is no time in Parliament to focus on other issues affecting the country. Parliament becomes paralysed as the different parties increasingly block each other, as different factions within the governing party block each other. It means the government is unable to make new decisions because the government is largely focusing on something else, which is, of course, Brexit.
Any type of community or identity that you can possibly think of, every one of these, I think, is in flux right now because there's no available sense of what Brexit means to them.
Oh, quite close then. But how does it all compare to the so-called crises that shape the UK we know today? Suez, winter of discontent, the global financial crash.
If we want to identify whether or not the UK economy is in a crisis, we want to think about what's changing. And we haven't had any sharp movements of important economic variables. There's sort of broad stability. If you think about an economic crisis in Greece or in Argentina, tend to be associated with the country basically borrowing more than the investors in that country think they can reasonably pay back. So what we have with the UK situation is nothing like that.
What makes a crisis is the uncertainty of outcomes. You can't plan. You don't know what's going to happen next. As long as your bins are collected, as long as you can take your kids to school, as long as you can be treated at a hospital, as long as you know there's just about enough police in the streets, a political and constitutional crisis can pass you by.
Like many, you're probably feeling like you've had enough of hearing how bad Brexit is making things and how bad it could get, especially when it feels like not a lot has actually changed right now. Then should we even care?
Specific problems will be the speed of Parliament. How quickly can we get legislation through? If legislation doesn't get through quickly enough, you're going to have great gaps in terms of the turnover of European Union law to British law. And if that creates gaps in the labour market or citizens' rights or even our ability to resuscitate the NHS, I think there will be a profound local, quite immediate impact.